Kia ora, and welcome to chapter 21 of this book entitled The Future of Learning. In this chapter we're looking at the sequencing and the building up of the learning process itself. So for young children we're going to start fairly simple with a fairly simple model for them so they can actually start that journey on building the learning process. And we've built the learning process into 3 stages. So over the years, and it's really up to the educator as to when they feel the learners are ready for the next stage in the process. And some will get there before others, quite possibly, but we want to actually build this over time, and we've put no guidelines in terms of ages and stages. It really is up to the educator to make that decision. So the very first level really is that we want to engage that curiosity, so we start them with a prompt, and the prompt engages curiosity. Okay. But before even it engages curiosity, it engages an emotion. Because unless a young child feels something, they're not going to learn something. So there's something you want them to learn, they've got to feel something about that if we want to make that a really effective learning process. So we go from having the prompt to feeling an emotion, and that spurs this idea of curiosity, where suddenly we've got a whole host of questions we want to ask. So we end up asking lots of questions about what we just saw or what just happened. Once we've got that curiosity, we go searching then for that knowledge. Why? How did that happen? Where did that come from? Where did that go? Those questions are what drives our building of knowledge. Once we've got a sufficient amount of knowledge that we think is enough, we then go sort of looking and applying that to the context we've experienced or whatever the prompt might have shown, whatever we want to understand. And usually what happens then is that we get there and we think we've got enough knowledge, but by interrogating the context we realise we need more knowledge. So we've got to go back up the cycle, look for more knowledge and come back to the context again. And that backwards and forwards process between building knowledge and asking questions will go on for some time. But once we've applied that to a context and we have sufficient knowledge, we can start to make meaning out of that. So we use the terminology for young learners of making meaning from our knowledge. All right? Now in making meaning, of course, they're developing ideas and concepts, but we're not going to introduce those terms at this point unless you particularly want to. But we're talking about making meaning from our knowledge. Once we've got some meaning, some understanding, then the learners can go away and start looking at applying that meaning to the needs and opportunities they might have. And those needs and opportunities will allow them to apply that understanding to be innovative and be ingenious. So that's level 1. In level 2, we go through the same initial prompt, feeling of emotion, curiosity and the building of knowledge, and applying it to a context though. So in other words, we're going to differentiate between forming an idea and forming a concept, and we're going to introduce these 2 new terms of idea and concept. And an idea is a relationship between variables in a single context or maybe 1 or 2 contexts. But once we have applied that idea to a number of different contexts, then we start to form this notion of a concept. So we're actually building in another stage here. We're differentiating between building knowledge, creating ideas, creating concepts, and then we can go through the process again of applying those ideas and concepts and our knowledge to being innovative and ingenious and actually coming up with new ideas, new concepts, new products, new systems, new environments and new media formats. So we actually introduce this breakaway from making meaning into building ideas and building concepts. At the 3rd level, what we're doing then is we're going to introduce the notion of building concept frameworks. And a concept framework is a collection of concepts and ideas and knowledge that we glue together. And through the discussion that we've had so far in other chapters, we've discussed this whole notion of driving as being a concept framework. We've got a concept of steering, a concept of opening the door, we've got a concept of pressing pedals and releasing them, we've got a concept of give way signs. We need to know where we're going. We've got to have a sequence of that in our minds, so in fact we can actually get on and off motorways and down streets to the place we need to be. So in that case, we've still got the prompt, we've still got that emotion, we've still got that curiosity, we're still building knowledge, we're applying it to a context to begin with, then we're going back and revisiting and applying to another context and another context and another context, and through that process we start to build an understanding, beginning with the ideation process of building an idea and then forming a concept. But then we might start looking at it and say, well, what other concepts do I need to build? And that might force us back into the whole process again, and it becomes a washing machine of sort of going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, looking at new knowledge, to create new ideas, to create new concepts, to go back again and say, oh, now I need to understand this bit as well, so I need to build some more knowledge and create some more ideas and build some new concepts, and back again until we build this concept framework. And once we've got that concept framework, then we can apply that concept framework to the need or the opportunity that we've identified in order to be innovative and then subsequently be ingenious. So we're separating out the innovation ingenuity. We're separating out the innovation as being the coming up with a clever idea, and the ingenuity actually being the creation of the product, the system environment, or the media format that we want. So in this chapter, we're really just breaking down the learning process into 3 levels, building it from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 over the time that young person is at school. Okay, so in summary, the learning process allows us to provide the students with a scaffold for learning. We want to make that reasonably simple when we start off, and then we're going to increase its complexity as we move through. Thank you very much. Now you can go away and read the chapter and pick up on the diagrams there and use those. You can print those off as posters. Those are available on the website as PDFs. In the book they're JPEGs, so they won't scale up very well, but in the book and on the website you'll find the PDFs, and you can actually print those off and use those in the classroom. All the very best. Thank you very much.